So a number of years ago, this must have been in the early 2000s, I was working in Chile as a film producer. I was producing some pictures, and we had this great guy who worked for us, an accountant, right? And one night, he was working really late into the night, and he drove home. You know, I mean, he was working until like 10 or something like that, and he was driving home on the freeway around like 10:30 at night on a weekday. No, excuse me, on like a Friday. Yes, it was a Friday, and I'll explain why this is relevant. He was driving home on a Friday night, and you know, one of these pedestrian overpasses, right? This guy jumped off of it. He decided to commit suicide, and he jumped off the pedestrian overpass onto the road directly in front of this accountant. This accountant who worked for me, a guy, like I said, a great guy. I mean, just salt of the earth, really, just a wonderful man. And you know, he fell right in front of him. And of course, the accountant in his car hit this guy who wanted to kill himself, and of course did kill him. The fall injured him severely, and then he got run over by the accountant's car, and he died. Right? And so you see, in Chile, when you are part of any kind of murder or severe injury, under any circumstances, what happens is that the police automatically arrest you. It just sort of calm and cool down the situation and figure out what happened. And so the police just simply grab you if you're involved in a fatal accident or a near fatal accident, and they arrest you and book you. And of course they do a toxicology and breathalyzer and the whole thing. But it's not that, you know, they wait around for an attorney general or the equivalent to indict you. No. They arrest you right on the spot. And they hold you until the police have a fair idea of what exactly happened in this situation, right? And the person who can release you is a judge. Now, because this happened on a Friday night, there was no judge that Friday in the in the early morning hours leading into Saturday, and there wouldn't be a judge until like Saturday. No, actually Monday. Monday was when he would have like a judge whereby he could talk about the situation and explain what had happened, right? And he didn't know anything about the law or about the criminal law, of course, because he was, like I said, a salt of the earth kind of guy. He had never done anything in his life. And unfortunately, he wound up having to sit in jail for the whole weekend, even though he hadn't done anything. And in point of fact, it was because of a weird situation of the Chilean law, the police realized in short order that the accountant, this friend of mine, this guy who worked for me, he was totally innocent because the suicide had left a note at his home, and the police had gone there and found this note. And he had said that he was just miserable with his life, blah, blah, and decided to kill himself in this really despicable manner, because it was sort of like he jumped off the freeway overpass. He had planned to do it this way, and he wanted some other car to hit him to finish the job. It seemed, yeah. Okay, forget about the morality of it. I'm going off on a tangent. But the point I'm trying to make here, see, the accountant didn't know anybody insofar as the criminal justice system was concerned. And he didn't have a criminal attorney. And the criminal attorney in that situation, if he'd been able to call one, would have known exactly what to do and how to get him out of jail before seeing the judge, because there was a mechanism for it. But he needed outside counsel that had been vetted by the criminal justice system in Chile. Because the Chilean system, it doesn't matter the pros and cons of it. It's a very fair system. It's just another different system as opposed to any of the other Western democracies. That again, is not the point. The point is, see, the accountant didn't have an attorney who could look after his best interests insofar as the criminal justice system is concerned. He had never given a thought to hiring a criminal attorney because he'd never committed a crime. And he was, like I said, a salt of the earth kind of guy who would never in his wildest dreams imagine of doing anything illegal, right? He was just a decent guy. So he thought to himself, well, I'm a decent guy, as he told us later when he was out of jail and when we were talking about this tragedy that had befallen him. He had never thought to himself that he needed a criminal justice attorney because he said, I would never commit a crime, so why would I need an attorney? See what I mean? See the naivete? Now, this happened, I think it was 2004 or something like that, right? And shortly thereafter, by happenstance, I was having drinks with a friend of mine, a corporate attorney. And he's still my corporate attorney, as a matter of fact. And we were just having drinks in the afternoon, kind of just shooting the shit, before going home. And at the same bar was a good friend of his from law school who was a famous criminal attorney. And he joined us, and we started shooting the shit and having a drink and a laugh and what have you. And the criminal attorney, he specialized in white-collar crime, high-end kind of crimes, right? And he charged an arm and a leg. And he explained why he could charge an arm and a leg. Because he said, see, people call me in the middle of the night because something horrible is happening to them. And they need me to spring them out of jail or do something major. And that's why I get paid the big bucks. We all had a laugh about this, right? And, we all went home and all the rest of it. But a few days later, it got me thinking. And the fact of the matter is, a few days after that conversation, I hired that criminal attorney. Even though I had, at that point, never been arrested in my life. Never been charged with any crime. I've never been charged with a crime. I've never been arrested. Well, except one time when I was 16, I got picked up by a military patrol during Pinochet's dictatorship because I violated curfew, right? It was expunged from my records, right? It was just a minor thing. I was late coming home from my girlfriend's place. Curfew was at midnight because there were a lot of bombs going off from left-wing terrorists. And so the military dictatorship, this was in '84, had imposed a curfew at midnight, and I'd missed the last bus going home, and so I was walking home, and it was past midnight, and a military patrol passed by and saw me and picked me up, and I got shoved into the cell with the other minors who were roughly in the same situation as me. And then the next morning, my mom picked me up and she yelled at me, and that was that. That was the story, right? It was pretty goddamn funny, actually. But that was the only time I've ever been arrested in my life, right? I have never been charged with a crime. I have never been arrested for any reason, at least not as an adult. I have never been even sued. I have never personally been sued, ever, in all the countries that I have lived in over the years, because I'm a fairly law-abiding guy, right? And yet in every country that I've ever lived in, whenever I move to that country or that city or whatever, I make it a point to find the best criminal attorney there and hire him. Every time. It's something that you should do. It's not expensive, You just have to put down, $1,000, maybe $2,000 as retainer, and just interview the guy. Interview as many as you want to. Find the guy that you're comfortable with. Find the guy that you figure is, on the ball, who's not going to be a fucking moron. And you just put him on retainer. Just hire him. And you say that the reason you're hiring him is the reason I'm going to tell you is that, see, when you need a criminal attorney, you're going to be panicking because something awful happened. Like in the situation with this accountant I was telling you about. Something awful happened. And he was not responsible. But in the eyes of the law, they had to arrest him and they had to process him. And there were a whole bunch of legal hoops that he had to jump through. And he could have used a criminal attorney, right? Now in the United States, see, let's cut to the chase. The district attorney and the police, they are looking to up their quotas, up their numbers. And so they don't really give a shit if you're innocent or guilty. They just want to improve their numbers, improve their stats, so they get the bigger paycheck, the bigger salary, and the bigger budget for whatever crazy ass shit the cops or the district attorney in that particular place want to do. We all know this. We all know that the criminal justice system in the United States is grossly unfair, and it only respects money. And that's a truth. So what you have to do is you have to be ready. You have to be ready, and you have to have hired a criminal attorney who can look after your best interests if something befalls you. And don't be squeamish about it. Don't think that, I shouldn't do this. I mean, why would I do this? I'm innocent. I'm an innocent guy. I'm a law-abiding citizen. Yes, exactly. Exactly. That's exactly why you should do it. Because it's innocent, naive schmucks who get fucked over by the criminal justice system. Do you want to be that schmuck? Do you want to get into serious trouble even though you are perfectly innocent? Do you have any idea how many people get cleared every year by the Innocence Project, where they use DNA to prove that X, Y, and Z didn't do the horrible crime that they're alleged to have committed? Hundreds every year. And probably it would be thousands if that project had more funds, right? Because the American criminal justice system does not care about justice, does not care about innocence. It cares about stats. It cares about the numbers. How many convictions? That's all they give a shit about. And so they have to toss somebody who's innocent into jail in order to improve their stats. They are going to do that. And make no mistake about it. Don't even think for a second that they're going to give a shit about justice, because they don't. They don't. Okay? Now, in my own case, I can tell you this is the extent of my criminal career, if you will. In 1996, I got ticketed in Los Angeles for making an illegal U-turn. Yeah. And then in 2001, I got ticketed for walking my dog without a leash in Manhattan. That's the extent of my criminal career. And yet I have a criminal attorney. Yep. I have a criminal attorney here in the Ukraine. I have a criminal attorney in the United States. I have a criminal attorney in Chile. Those are the 3 countries that I've lived in. Also in the UK, where I was living last year. Yep. I have those attorneys just in case. Just in case. See? And remember, you leave a retainer with a lawyer, see? And what is it? It's an advance on his prospective fees, right? If you never call on him professionally, and you never need to hire him to bail you out of jail or whatever, that money's yours. So it's basically, an interest-free loan that you're giving the attorney. And once you leave that city, he's going to give you the money back, right? Right. So it's not even an expense. It's an insurance policy that costs you nothing. Nothing except parking $1,000 or $2,000 with some reputable law firm that when you leave that city or no longer will likely hire that attorney, you can just take it back. Easy peasy. Do it. Don't be stupid. Don't be stupid. Hire a criminal justice attorney. Have him on retainer. It'll take you, maybe half an hour interview with the guy, maybe a couple of hours of research. But if the police somehow, or for some reason, bust down your door claiming that you're like the leader of some meth gang or whatever the fuck, right? And they arrest you and you have you're down on your belly being handcuffed by a bunch of fucking Gestapo, black-clad Nazi fucks who call themselves SWAT. They should call themselves SS. That's what they should call themselves. Well, you're going to know what to do. And they ask you anything and they start yelling and screaming at you. You better, that you have to talk and blah, 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 and confess. All you have to do is say, talk to my attorney whom I already have hired. And you keep your fucking mouth shut and you wait for your attorney to straighten out the situation. Now, if the situation in the United States were fair, okay, if the cops were decent, they're not. Cops in America are scum. And I don't give a shit if you're a cop and watching this and you think that I'm wrong. Fuck off. We all know that cops are these arrogant fuckheads who do not respect civilians, who, in point of fact, look at civilians like bullies look on weaklings. That's the truth about America and the American criminal justice system. And that's the truth about the police. Never forget that. You're the fucking sheep and they're the fucking dogs. Okay? That's the truth of it. Well, you better fucking protect yourself. Protect yourself the only way that you can. Have a criminal attorney ready at your beck and call. One phone call away, and you better have him on your fucking speed dial on your phone. Yeah. Because think of the situation. Think of the problems that you can avoid. Somebody who can look after you, look after your interests at the moment when you are most vulnerable. I hope I scared you with this video, because the police, especially in the United States, they are scary fucks. They do not care about the truth. They do not care about justice. All they care about is their stats and lording it over the people. You and I have seen how they act. There are lots of shows that show that. Why do you think they're all dressed in black? Huh? Because they look at you like a fucking sheep, and they're the dogs, and they want to bite you. So you better have your own attack dog ready to bite them back.